Right. All right. So let's talk about tajisim then. Tajisim means corporeality. It's imposing corporeal aspects to divine. Okay. So imagining or imposing or thinking or believing that the divine, God subhanahu wa ta'ala, have a corporeal elements, have a hand, have a head, have a leg, or have anything like that that comprises a body. So where did this came from? Well, like historically, it came from like very, very long time ago. But if we are talking about the Bible, for example, and the Torah and Jews and Christians traditions, then we find that expressly stated there in so many verses. All right. And I collected some of those here. Now, I'm not going to be critical of these verses in terms of how they should be understood. That's not for me to say. Right. My whole point here is to demonstrate that a corporeal God, at least like at the literal meaning of the verses, is there. Now, the interpretation of that and whether it's metaphorical or not, that's a different story. That's for our Jews and Christian brothers and sisters to deal with. That's not my point and not my place. One of the verses, for example, it is this is from the Torah, the Jews book. Come, let us build us a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, that we may make us a name, lest we be scattered over all earth. And then the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the human creatures had built. So clearly here, God comes down, leaves earth, wherever he is in place, he leaves that place and comes down to earth and look and see and, interact with his creations. Okay, so another example, and the Lord scattered them. Okay, so that's basically the continuation of the previous verses. It's no point of reading it word for word, I guess. Another place, it says that, and Abraham was 90, because he was called Abraham before he take the covenant, and then he become Abraham, which different story. But anyway, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, the prophet, peace be upon him, was 99 years old, and the Lord appeared to Abraham and said to him, I am al-Shadi. Al-Shadi is basically a Jewish word for God. It's one of the God's names. So basically, again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or God in their tradition, appeared to Abraham. He saw him and told him, talk to him, said, I am God, I am al-Shadi. Walk in my presence and be blameless. And then and he finished speaking with him, and God ascended from Abraham. Now he became Abraham, and then God basically finished talking to him and then went back up in another place. And the Lord appeared to him in the Tripeneth of Mamre. I hope I'm pronouncing these names correct. I'm pretty sure not correct, but my apology to anybody who may get offended for that. I don't mean to mispronounce. It's just my ignorance more of anything else. So basically, it's talking about when Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, when the angels came to him. But here it says that it's not only the angels. It was like three men. One of them is God. So basically it says Abraham raised his eyes and saw, and look, three men were standing before him. He saw and he ran toward them from the tent flap and bowed to the ground. And he said, my Lord. So he's basically, there are three. He addressed one of them, which is God, and said, my Lord, if I have found favor in your eyes, please don't go past, not go on past your servant, and so on. Let a little water be fetched and bathe your feet and stretch out under the tree. He's talking to God. And let me fetch a morsel of bread and refresh yourselves, and on and on. And then in other place, God tells him, all the nations of the earth will be blessed through your seed because you have listened to my voice. So God has a voice. And Jacob was left alone, and the man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. and he saw that he had not won out against him. That's talking about Jacob, Sayyidina Yaqub, Jacob alayhi salam, the prophet, who is also named Israel, who is basically a great prophet, as we all know and believe in. He had not won out against him. So basically, Jacob, the prophet, is wrestling with a man, and until the break of dawn. So basically, they kept like fighting or wrestling all night, long until next day. And there was basically like a draw. He didn't win. Jacob didn't win against him, and he touched his hip socket. That man that is wrestling with Jacob, touched Jacob's hip socket, which was wrenched as he wrestled with him. And he said, "Let me go, for dawn is breaking." And he said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." So Jacob's talking to God, basically holding him, and God asking Jacob to let him go, and Jacob saying, "No, I'm not going to let you go." All right. Now, again, there might be interpretation. I'm talking about the literal words, because as you see later, these kind of theology has passed on to Muslims literature. All right. So anyway, "And I will not let you unless you bless me." And he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And he said, "Not Jacob shall your name hence be said, but Israel, for you have striven with God and men and won out." Okay. Anyway, so it goes on and on. And in other place, in other verse, God's breath hovering over the water. So God have a breath. And God said, "Let us make human in our image." So God created the human in God's image. God created the human in his image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. In other place, and God remembered Noah and all the beasts. So God remembers. So he forgets and remembers. In other place, this is actually from the Bible. So all the previous verses were from the Torah. So it's like Jews' translation, which is the Old Testament for our Christian brothers and sisters, but they are there may be some different in translations here or there, right? This one here in front of you, it's the translation in the Jews' Torah is different from the translation in the Old Testament, which is a part of the Bible for Christians. So it says, "By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work." So if you go to the same verse for the Jews, they didn't say rested. They basically had a different translation.